Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you guys been having a great Easter Sunday and a great weekend so far. We're about to enter another work week, and there's a lot to talk about, and really what looks to be a pretty significant interior Northeast, maybe even interior areas of the Mid-Atlantic snowstorm. And this is really going to get going as early as tomorrow morning for a lot of areas, and then getting into tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, tomorrow night. But a lot of areas of the Southeast are going to see a lot of heavy rain overnight also. I'm talking about really talking about Georgia and the Carolinas, even Virginia could see anywhere from a half an inch to as much as 2 to 3 inches of rain overnight. So it's definitely going to be a rainy Sunday night. I know it's been a really nice day here where I'm located in South Carolina, a beautiful picture perfect Easter Sunday. But things are going to change as we get into our first work day of the work week, which is Monday. So we're going to break this down, talk about how much snow we could potentially see. I first am going to show you what the National Weather Service is showing, because it's much different than a lot of these other models. But we're going to take a look at the other models also. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I have a feeling this will probably be the last significant winter storm that we talk about for this time of the year until we get into late this year, when we get back into fall and winter. I don't really anticipate another major winter storm, at least for the eastern U.S., really going forward. So if you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. It gives others an opportunity to do so too. And y'all can look out for one another and glorify God doing it. I've had another couple more people join my channel. I'm 2 away from 20, which is the goal for the end of May. So thank y'all for choosing to support me monthly by joining the channel. It really goes a long way, especially in the slower times. So I really appreciate you guys. So let's get going here. So we're going to take a look at watches and warnings from the National Weather Service. And really I'm focusing on the eastern U.S. You see this kind of bluish color right here in the interior areas of New York. That is winter storm watches. And then if you look really closely right here, the higher elevations of West Virginia, a couple counties in Maryland, and also a couple counties in PA, you got winter weather advisories. I do anticipate this to get extended further north into Pennsylvania. The confidence is low as far as what could fall. There's a lot of areas that don't have any kind of winter weather alerts or advisories right now that I really think could see accumulating snow, whether that's a half an inch, enough to just cover the ground, or maybe just an inch of snow. But this could surprise people, or this could end up just being not really materializing the way it could. I mean, you got to think tomorrow is April 18th. We're starting to get into that. Really, we're in mid-April, but we're starting to get into that almost late April category, if you will. So you got the sun angle. How intense is the snow going to fall? We're going to talk about what we do see as far as models. But I mean, this is kind of a thing that's going to develop here in the next 12 hours. It's a piece of energy that's prompting all that severe weather in the deep south, and some energy in the middle part of the country are going to kind of congeal, if you will, pop into a low pressure, and we'll go on to show you that right now. You see this disturbance over the middle of the country. You got a lot of storms firing up to the south of the boundary showing up here, a lot of moist air. This is eventually going to work into Georgia and the Carolinas for your Sunday night, which is tonight. Going to prompt a lot of heavy rain, especially for South Carolina. And I'll show you that here on the HRRR models, pointing out anywhere from as much as 1 to 3 inches of rain in areas of South Carolina and parts of North Carolina tonight. So you'll go to sleep and it'll be dry. You'll wake up and things will be absolutely saturated, especially in the Carolinas. But beautiful weather this evening. You can tell how you got these clouds surging in the northeast from the north or northwest. Due to the fact that we have a trough which is kind of enforced at this cool air, which will set the stage for some winter weather for you folks in the northeast. But see this disturbance right here? This is all going to kind of work together to pop off a low pressure off the Carolinas and strengthen and actually plow right into southern New England. So first off, let's show you what the National Weather Service is showing. And please ignore this in South Carolina. This is some sort of glitch. We're not expecting any snowfall in Augusta or Columbia, South Carolina, anywhere in South Carolina or Georgia. I'm not sure. I almost posted that on Twitter to make a little funny joke, but I didn't want to put any misleading information. People frown upon that, and some people just do not know how to take a joke. So I definitely did not push the send button on that. But, I mean, take a look. You can see the low confidence with this, with how spotty this is, especially right here. I'm about to take a closer look at this. But it shows you the idea that, hey, a couple inches of snow is possible just south of Cleveland, Ohio, and north central Ohio. It is definitely possible, some snow. You've already had some snow squalls that have been, prompting some accumulating snow in the higher elevations of Vermont, New Hampshire, and New York State this afternoon. due to the influence of the cold front that's passed by. It's showing some snow potentially in eastern areas of Michigan. In fact, several inches of snow possible from the National Weather Service. Let's go on and take a look at what it shows for the Northeast, though. And it shows you the low confidence. This looks kind of weird right here, and the northern counties of PA, of Pennsylvania. When I say PA, I mean Pennsylvania, guys. 2 to 4 inches of snow is being forecasted, and then the higher hills. This is going to be very elevation driven, meaning a couple hundred feet can make a big difference. I mean, this precipitation is going to be falling in the low to mid 30s regardless. So you're going to need some intense precipitation rates to cool down the atmosphere aloft. It causes what we call the column, which is the atmosphere aloft going up several thousand feet up in the air. It causes it to cool down. Wet bulb is met, and wherever that wet bulb meets and how warm it depends on, it is several thousand feet up in the air. That tells you what falls at the surface. Is that going to be a cold 35-degree rain or a heavy wet snow at 34 or 35 degrees? It's a big factor here. So we got the hills of basically the middle of Pennsylvania, the higher elevations of Maryland, the far western counties of Maryland, where you got the tip of Maryland here on the western end. And then you have the higher elevations of West Virginia, and even Virginia could see accumulating snow anywhere from 1 to 3, maybe as much as 4 inches of snow in the higher elevations. But you look at the more flatter areas near Pittsburgh, for example, where some models are showing accumulating snow. The National Weather Service, though, maybe just a dusting of snow, 1/20th of an inch, not even really enough to cover the ground. You're going to need to get a really burst of maybe an hour of heavy snow for it to really accumulate in the areas, really anywhere. But how long do you get the heavy snow to fall? We know in interior areas of New York State you're going to get it. But this looks kind of weird in Vermont and New Hampshire. It's very spotty, especially in Vermont. It certainly looks very, very spotty. But the valleys, it's going to be a situation where the valleys of like interior New York State, or watch out Albany, maybe just not even an inch of snow, but you just go a couple thousand feet up in the air and several inches of snow can fall. This is interior New York, well over a foot of snow falling and a few thousand feet up in the air. So it just depends on how high you are up in the atmosphere and elevation that really is going to drive how much snow you see. But let's go on and take a look at the HRRR model. I want to talk about my folks here in the Southeast really quick and really give you an idea of how heavy this rain could be tonight. We'll start off at around midnight tonight, Eastern time, and we'll keep this going here. You got some heavy rain moving through areas of Tennessee. If you love a rainy night, you're going to love tonight. You're going to maybe hear a rumble of thunder. You're having issues with pollen. I tell you, here in South Carolina, pollen has not really been that big of a deal. People will rip and rave about it, but I've seen springs where everything is coated in yellow for days and maybe even weeks. And we had 1 week where things got really coated in yellow, and that was about it. It really has not been that bad, at least visibly, here in South Carolina this spring. It really hasn't, but you keep this going 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. A lot of heavy rain, some rumbles of thunder also. The low pressure starts to develop even over South Carolina. And, you're probably going to get some heavy rainfall overnight in South Carolina, I really think. But, I mean, look at the snow showing up in the higher elevations based off the HRRR model already. As of, anywhere from 8 to 10 a.m. this continues. And then watch out here. Maybe some showers and storms in eastern North Carolina and eastern South Carolina for sure. And we go on and switching up here to my folks up here in the Northeast. I mean, you already got an area of heavy, cold rain in Ohio. But when does this switch? If it does, to a heavy burst of snow, you're getting into, you're getting into 10 a.m., you're getting 11 a.m. This is around lunchtime, Eastern time. Okay, you got heavy snow riding up here in the heels of the south and southwestern areas of the Pennsylvania area, right with these areas. Man, somebody told me what this region is called. Please forgive me. But for you local folks in Maryland and northern areas of West Virginia and obviously in Pennsylvania, this is called something, this region of hills and higher elevation. But basically, you guys are going to be favored for the heaviest snow. So, and it stays heavy snow. But, you go down outside of these hills, down here in Pittsburgh, and it just might be a heavy rain. But, I mean, look at Ohio. It's going to be very difficult to predict who's going to see what. You take a look at a sounding here in Northeast Ohio at around, what time is this? This is around 1 p.m. Eastern time. And it shows you it's 35 degrees at the surface, right? But aloft, this is the 32 degree line, 0 degrees Celsius. Aloft, it stays below 32 degrees. So this is a heavy, look at the DGZs. This is a heavy, wet snow at 35 degrees. That's what sounding that is. So it just depends on how heavy it's falling and how much warm air aloft there is in the setup like this. But you keep this going here, and I know you're seeing rain right here, and it might start off as rain for these areas, but I think it will quickly go to some heavy wet snow as you're starting to get to the afternoon, the evening hours for interior areas of New York State. But I mean, this is snow in Pennsylvania. Basically, if you live 1,000 feet up in the air or higher in Pennsylvania, you have the chance to see some snow. I really do, and maybe a couple inches of it. But, you start to get to 2,000 feet up in the air, 1,500, 2,000, then you really do. But this is the interesting part right here. The low pressure begins to deepen. You start to get into the evening hours. The sun's going down. It is raining like crazy in the Delmarva and Maryland area, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, getting up to Philadelphia as this low pressure really begins to kick up. Winds begin to increase, and you have a heavy banding of snow right here in east central areas of Pennsylvania. You got heavy snow in this area. Binghamton, watch out. New York, heavy snow showing up here. The column completely crashes and it goes to all heavy snow based off the HRRR model. And you keep this going here, and really it just surges this low pressure right into New Jersey. The HRRR model does. And it gives a lot of heavy snow for basically all of interior New York. That has been the trend today, to kind of bring this low pressure more west. So that certainly keeps the big cities like New York City and Boston out of any risk for any snow. Just a wind-driven rain, and a chilly rain at that. But if this happens, this will likely be a heavy snow to even maybe some rain for these areas. When you have a low pressure, it just plows through like this. Yeah, you might have snow in the beginning, but that low pressure is going to bring its own cold air at all levels of the atmosphere, the surface and aloft. So, it could be heavy snow here in Vermont and New Hampshire, but, depending on the track of the low pressure, you're going to have like 2 areas of precipitation as you're getting into Tuesday morning. Still snowing right here in western New York State, and then snow falling basically in everywhere in Maine, and a little bit of ice, except far down east regions of the coastal regions of Maine. But if this was to happen, you would have a massive dry slot somewhere in interior Northeast, whether that's eastern areas of interior New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, wherever that would happen. It would be a big question mark, but you're going to have some kind of dry slot, which is just pretty much self-explanatory, an area where you don't have as much moisture as the surrounding areas. So you have to watch this. I've taken a lot of time talking about the HRRR model, and I hadn't even got to the other models, but this is what the HRRR model says, 10-to-1 ratio. This will not be a 10-to-1 ratio snow, but it shows a crazy amount of snow. This has to be off for West Virginia, the higher elevations of West Virginia and Virginia. I just do not believe this is happening. Even north of Pittsburgh, it shows several inches of snow. But really, I'm showing you a broader look at this. But it shows several inches of snow even for Cleveland and northern section of Ohio. It even shows snow in Indiana. I don't believe this. It even shows a few inches of snow in Chicago when the National Weather Service is saying maybe a dusting at most. But you look at the Northeast, and look at this. It really wants to show, let me go on and get back to this. It really wants to put 1 to 2 foot of snow near Scranton, Pennsylvania. Scranton, Pennsylvania, is in some hilly areas, but it's definitely not, I wouldn't call it the mountains. I've been there. I chased a nor'easter there a couple years back. But, look at this. It wants to just put 1 to 2 foot of snow in these areas. Binghamton, foot of snow, and then interior areas of New York State. So, guys, we're inside 24 hours of this system, and these short-range models are going absolutely insane. But I do not think it's accounting for the fact that this is mid to late April. So I do not think all this is going to fall that you see. In fact, I don't even think a half of it's going to fall. I don't even think of 75% of it's going to fall, except unless you're in these higher elevations. But you see this weird dry slot right here? One, that is the valley. That's a valley right there. And two, these are higher elevations, especially in Western Mass and Vermont, and even some higher elevations in Connecticut, where it's showing snow, where the National Weather Service doesn't show really any snow for this area. So it's going to be very interesting to really see what unfolds with this event. I mean, it really is. I'm fascinated to see what the final totals for this region, for these areas. Will it end up overachieving? Will this be a much more snowier situation than, like all models are showing, or is the National Weather Service doing the right thing by sticking to its guns or going much more conservative? And I would aim towards that. I would be like that also, because it's mid-April. Things can happen. It can still snow like crazy in April, but I just don't know. So I'm going to show you the NAM. The NAM is just as crazy as the HRRR model. Brings this heavy snow into, this is around 8 p.m. Let's go on and back it up here about midday tomorrow. You got heavy snow in those same regions of PA, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia. It's got a heavy band of snow. Watch out, Erie, Ohio, if the NAM does end up unfolding around mid to late afternoon as a few hours and some heavy snow moves in. Buffalo, New York, western areas of New York. This shows as green, but I guarantee you if it does start as rain, it will quickly go to snow. I mean, look at this low pressure the NAM's showing. This is a lot of heavy rain in New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, just the far southeast areas of New York State. This is a lot of heavy rain as you're getting into the middle of the night, Monday night into Tuesday, moving into Connecticut, Rhode Island, a wind-driven rain. But look at this intense snow in the middle of New York State. I mean, look at even areas like Scranton, Pennsylvania, getting slammed with heavy, wet snow. You look at a sounding right here, and it is unloading snow at 33 degrees. That's above freezing. It's a degree above freezing. But look at the DGZs. That tells us that it's heavy precipitation. That's what it tells us. But, this is the 32 degree line. 0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And you notice how it dips below and it stays below it. There is a warm nose, but it does not get above that 32 degree line aloft. So therefore, it's below freezing in all levels of the atmosphere except the surface. But the surface doesn't matter because it's barely above freezing in a very small section at the surface. So, I mean, it will be heavy. It's unloading. It's puking snow with this kind of stuff in the middle of the night tomorrow night. So this keeps on going. Low pressure kind of does what the HRRR model does and puts a dry slide over Vermont and New Hampshire. And it just shows more rain for Maine, though, as we're getting into midday Tuesday. But you look at the NAM and you see how much snow it's showing. It's actually not quite as crazy as the HRRR model. But one thing I'll note is, look at Maine. It's not showing any snow hardly in Maine. It's wild. And the HRRR model shows several inches of snow in Maine. Not a whole lot, but it shows several inches. It shows a lot less than it did yesterday. But it just shows interior areas of New York State getting absolutely plastered. I don't pretend to know every single city and town in this area, but watch out Binghamton. That's a town that I'm very interesting to see. That's a town just north of the Pennsylvania-New York State line in New York. And, that's an area I'm kind of watching right into here. How much snow that these areas get, like these short-range models are showing they could potentially get. It wants to put over a half a foot of snow in areas outside of Erie, Pennsylvania, and it shows all this snow, even down here in Pittsburgh. Even in Ohio, it shows several inches of snow. Do I think that this is going to happen? I think it could, but there's no way. I just do not buy this much snow falling in these areas. I really don't. But this is what I like to call frontogenesis. It's basically where you have a ton of moisture in place and the most intense, lot of lift as this low pressure is strengthening. And you look at the NAM around 5 a.m. Tuesday morning and basically in the middle of New York State. And it just shows a ton of lift. It shows a big time, basically a moisturized column right here. You see how the dew points, these are dew points, right? And you see how the dew points are riding the actual air temperature aloft. And you see how they ride it all the way up into about 15, 16, 17,000 feet up in the air. That tells us that the column is completely saturated this far up. And you don't really enter any kind of big time dry air compared to the actual temperature until you get a few miles up in the atmosphere. So you got a completely saturated column. That means that all the moisture is going to make it to the ground and it's going to fall as snow. I know that's kind of hard to explain, but just take my word for it. It's going to snow like crazy in those areas. You look at the Euro, pretty much shows what the short range models are showing. It's not much different. It likes the idea of a big time blast of heavy snow for the interior Northeast. And actually, it looks a lot different because it doesn't really show us the mesoscale features that we need to see like the short range model does. But, it blasts the Northeast. This is going to jump at snowfall totals. Look at it. It wants to give Ohio. It still wants to give Ohio several inches of snow, the entire central and northern half of Ohio, Cleveland, several inches of snow. So if you want me to give you an answer, hey, how much snow is Ohio going to see? I'd say there is a boom potential. Y'all could see several inches of snow. And then there's a potential y'all could see just heavy cold rain and burst of wet snow in between. But it never fully goes as snow for long enough, maybe in Ohio, for example, to accumulate. So I think this is a fascinating storm. It is. I wish I had a couple more days to talk about it, but it's pretty much here. Tomorrow morning will be the last update on it. But this is going to be a tricky storm that could potentially catch some people off guard. I really do think it could. But another thing, and I hate I'm 21 minutes into this video, I'm just talking about it, but the winds, the HRRR model wants to, as we're getting into the middle of the night, Monday night, into Tuesday morning, wants to bring 50 to 60 mile per hour potential wind gust into southern New England, getting into Long Island, New York City, also Connecticut, Rhode Island, Mass. Watch out, New Hampshire, Vermont, especially the higher peaks, and then getting into the down east areas of Maine. A lot of strong winds, just like with any other nor'eastern. So this is going to be intense. Nothing unheard of that you aren't used to. For any time of the year, really, especially for you folks, hardy folks up in southern New England. But going to get prepared for coastal flooding, even on the rainy side. This is going to be pretty intense. So that's all I got, guys. Hope y'all have an excellent Easter evening. God bless all y'all. Thank y'all for the ongoing support. I really appreciate every single one of y'all. And running out of breath. I'll talk to y'all in the morning. God bless.